All right, we are back. It is episode 3 of season 2 of ELF Live. I'm your co-host, Nick Alfieri, coming to you live out of Southern Germany here with my lovely British co-host, Matt Bressington. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm feeling great. And I say it every intro, but this is one of my favorite parts of the season when we could dissect the rosters and then see how wrong we are or right we are come the end of the season. That's my favorite part.
Some of these takes are going to age like milk, but we're going to still go with them. We've got a great show for you guys today. Welcome everybody in the chat, wherever you are watching from. We're live on 5 different platforms. Okay. And all of the chats are interconnected. So put your thoughts, put your ideas, put your comments in there. You guys are an integral part of the show here with Matt and myself. So we are starting off in just a couple of minutes. Very exciting interview with one of the best players in the ELF, Ben Holmes, quarterback of the Vienna Vikings, will be joining the show in just a mere matter of minutes from now. And then after that, we're going to go into the As Seen on Social segment that we started last week. That's very fun. There's some very big things, Matt, that happened in the ELF world that we're going to touch on in that As Seen on Social segment. Then, of course, the Signing Center, talk about some of the big signings that have dropped. And then the big lack of signings for some of our superstars who are still yet to sign on the ELF team. And then we've got this final segment, a beast from the past. Okay, Matt, and we're very curious to hear your thoughts on this. We're going to be talking about a team that maybe can they restore their past glory this year, and we will see. We've got a lot of great stuff for you guys. Everyone in the chat, Marcus, what's going on? Michael, Just Shots, JZYY72, what's going on, everybody? So, Matt, what do you think, man? Should we bring in the superstar himself right now and get right on into it?
Let's do it. I'm ready to watch Alex Malchow's adrenaline go all the way up.
Oh, if Malchow is not in the chat for this, he's going to be so upset. Let's bring on the man himself, Ben Holmes, coming to us live out of Vienna, Austria. Ben, what's up, man?
What's up, guys?
Looking forward to it.
All right, Ben, so you just got back to Vienna a couple days ago, right? How you doing? Are you jet lagged? How's your adjustment?
No, I'm pretty good. Last year I had a schedule, and this year I just tried to stick to it. So it's been good.
There you go. He's a savvy vet. It's year 2 in Europe. This guy knows what he's doing. All right, Ben, I don't want to start off too glum, but I'm very curious here. Just to start off of the championship game last year. Obviously, you guys had a great season, made it to the championship game. I know I'm going right on into it. I'm sorry. But obviously was a disappointing end for you guys there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's probably left a bad taste in your mouth going into the offseason. But what can you take away from that game, and what did you and the team kind of learn from that experience?
I think Ryan is, the level of where you want to be, I believe, and, we're working towards that. And, I think it showed us, maybe we had to get punched in the mouth to kind of reinvent ourselves a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's the short answer. The long answer, I think, is, but, get to the top, sometimes you might have to get punched a little bit, so.
Sort of like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing. But I mean, you guys are bringing back a lot of great guys and having some continuity there, and also adding some really nice pieces. Talk to us a little bit. How has your off season been going? I know you were back in the States. Saw you were in Texas a little bit. It's your alma mater, Tarleton State. How has your off season been going? Okay, he's repping.
My Texans hat. No, it's been good. That's where we bought our house. Me and Jen, and the whole staff is there. My head coach, Coach Witten, the OC, the O-line coach, everybody's there. So when I go back to Tarleton, it's like I'm going back home. You know what I mean? So they were super welcoming. They opened the doors for me as soon as I got there. They were like, come into every meeting if you want, use the weight room, eat the food, whatever you want to do, it's all yours. So it was nice. And then, got to pick their brains a little bit, see what they do on offense now. That's maybe a little bit similar to what we do and maybe a little bit different. How can we add, to our scheme, if you will. And it was just good just to be around football for, the off season. Some guys leave and go somewhere else, but
Well, it's really cool to be able to have that type of relationship with your alma mater and be able to go back to it like that and have it feel like home. And we got in the chat here. I don't know if you saw your biggest fan in the entire world. Alex Malchow is in the chat. He's an MVP. Let's go, my dog. Matt, you got a question for Ben?
Absolutely. So you played North America, you played in Canada, you played in Europe, and me and you talk regularly. You talk to me about how much you've enjoyed your stay at Europe and how you're in your second year. You've extended your family as well. Congratulations for that. How has Europe been in terms of a footnote in your career?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like I needed a fresh start, and I think I got that here in Vienna. I think I was in the rat race of, a journeyman type quarterback, going from USFL to Arena League to, maybe some other sub-development leagues, and then finally in the CFL. And I was just like a little hamster on a treadmill, just trying to, stay above water, and try and be that, starter, second string, third string, practice squad, back to second string. It was like, okay, at some point, like, I want to be the guy again. You know what I mean? So Coach Kalaikai reached out at probably the most perfect time anybody could have reached out. And it was just, I was kind of done being, and I didn't know anything about ELF, as I've expressed in the past, but he was like, nope, you'll be our guy. You come over, you're our starter. And I was like, okay, I'm in. So, and I think coming over here, it's just been, like I said, breath of fresh air. And, I can kind of not reinvent myself, but maybe write my own story, and have a little bit more of a say in my story,
I love that, man. That's awesome. And Coach Kalaikai is one of the greats out here. Been out here for 20 or so years. Fellow Oregonian, my home state, by the way. Shout out to Coach Kalaikai there. Ben, one thing that we talk about kind of on this show and just when we're talking about ELF football is we oftentimes like when a team gets a quarterback who has some European experience, whether they played in maybe the German league or the Austrian league or what have you, because that really, really seems to help with their adjustment to the ELF. You, on the other hand, this was your first year ever in Europe. And, it's a big adjustment, not just on the football field, but in life as well. But you were able to have such success right away when that's not so common with the quarterback position coming to the ELF. You talk a little bit just about your adjustment to Europe. What were the big adjustments for you, and how were you able to have such a smooth transition, at least on the football field?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the second part of your question first, because I think it's easy because I think like you guys say, the Vikings are such a prestigious, organization. So I think I really lucked out and made the right decision in the end, because, when I first signed, I got a call from Nikki, right? And she was like, I'll handle everything for you on the media side, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I get a call from our guy Leonard. He's kind of our DFO. He's like, hey, I got your bags, your flight, everything. It's taken care of. This is when you're getting in. This is when you're leaving. So it's like you can kind of just relax and not have to like worry about that part. And then when you get here, everything is pretty much here for you. Like you have your room, you know where you're going to eat, you know how to travel, you know how to get to the train, and there's somebody there with you. So you're not doing it by yourself. Like my biggest fear was like, how do I get on the train? Where does it go? I can't speak this language that they speak, but just the organization makes it such a smooth transition where, maybe as some organizations, they don't have that, component to them. I won't speak on different, clubs or whatnot, but, maybe that's, some guys when they're first out of America, they're like, okay, kind of nervous, obviously. And maybe there's not someone within that organization that's kind of like, here you go. Like, we're going to help you, they're just kind of there and expect them to be the great import that, they signed them to be. But, sometimes it doesn't always work out like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Vienna does a great job with kind of that transition for the imports and lets you really adjust smoothly. Matt, you had a question about sort of the Raiders and the Vikings?
I did a little bit. So, of course, naturally you could expect we're going to ask a little bit about the Raiders. It's a rival. It's been a rivalry forever. The Vikings have won every single game in the ELF against the Raiders. This season, they're not in the same conference. You guys play in the East, they play in the South. Are you expecting them to be in the playoffs? It's a tough conference. They got Munich, they got Madrid, and there's them, and then there's also, of course, Helvetic. Realistically, how are you feeling about the Raiders' chances this season?
Oh, that's a good question. I think they could be a good team. I think they could be a playoff contender. It's just a matter of what their identity is going to be on offense. I'm not too sure. I know they have a stable of running backs. I know they have a pretty good O-line. I know they got some weapons on the outside. So it just depends on if they can all come together and, play as a team. And one thing I really like their head coach. I think he dials it up on defense. I got a lot of respect for him in that regard. But the Raiders are the Raiders, man. I don't like the Raiders. So, I'm not gonna be any locker room material for them. But we'll see, and I know we'll give them a good battle when we see them both times. So it's always an exciting week when you go against the Raiders, and we hate them and they hate us, and that's that.
Hey, it's one of our great rivalries, not just in the ELF, but in all of Europe. Okay, and so it's a very historic rivalry, and hopefully you guys can remain undefeated against your rivals in the ELF this season. I'm curious, Ben, because you're always talking. You were first team All League last year, quarterback. What other quarterbacks in the ELF do you admire their game, or you think, okay, that's a good quarterback? I'm impressed by this guy. Anybody else jump out to you?
Yeah, I think you have to start with Jadrian. Like when you talk about, where you want to be as a team, and like when you look at yourself in the mirror, where you want to be as just a player, and the success that he's had, it's, you can't not notice it. He's won 2 championships, was MVP of 1, I believe. And I think his year with Hamburg, he was in the championship. He's just had success. And what I admire about Jadrian is he got into Europe when he was pretty early in his career, and he's developed into the player that he is now, which is really cool. So he came and kind of said, hey, I'm going to learn this game, if you will. And he's taken it to the next level. And then I go with Riley Hennessy. I think for what they do on offense, I think he fits their Jordan Newman's scheme. I think he gets the ball out of his hand really quick, makes the right decision, doesn't have a whole lot of turnovers, gets the ball into his weapons' hands. And he seems like a good guy, like a good human being, and that's what you got to be as a quarterback. And then, you go down the list, and there's guys that do good things. And, this year will kind of be the year of the unknown, if you will, with some of these guys. There's huge upside in the signings and whatnot. And, but you never know, because a lot of them have never played in Europe. You know what I mean? So we'll see. And a lot of them haven't really played football in a long time. So we'll see how they transition into that. But again, you just got to get lucky with a good team, and it's honestly tough to come over here and have success right away as a quarterback, because you got to go to a good team. You know what I mean? And I was fortunate enough to go to a great team, but a great organization, so.
Yeah,
I hope that answered your question.
yeah, no, you did, man. And I can support the fact that Riley is a good guy. Okay,
No bias there at all.
Yeah, Matt, you got another question for Ben before we let him go here?
Yes, my last one. Of course, I'm a player personnel guy. It's what I'm known for. So you look at the Vienna Vikings receiver core and tight end core and running back core. There's a lot of touches you need to give to these talented players. You could argue maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. Some people might think they want more touches. Some people might be saying so-and-so's getting too many touches. How do you manage that as the quarterback and as the American leader of this team?
Yeah, sure. Well, too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm the cook. You know what I mean? And these guys are, they're going to get served with whatever they get served. You know what I mean? And I think this room is very unselfish. And you got great leaders in the room. And, it starts with our OC, Coach Nick, and then it goes to probably the best wide receiver coach there is in Europe, and Coach Kuzi there. And he does a really good job of controlling the room, controlling that type of room where there is so much firepower. And then you got leadership like Yannick and Beer Bomber. And I always talk about the homegrowns, then I forget that Reese Horn's on our team. So it's a really stacked room, but, you know, I think they're all, you know, unselfish enough to where they say, hey, I might not get touches against Prague, but I'll get touches, you know, on another game. You know what I mean? And if you treat the game well, the game's going to treat you well back. You know, so you just got to be patient. You know, I'll be the one out there deciding, you know, kind of who gets the ball and whatnot. So please don't yell at me. That's what I always tell them. You know, I'll come to you eventually. And, you know, when you're called upon, you know, just make a play and then we'll keep rolling, you know. So, but all these guys are so supportive of each other. Like even in practice, I was able to watch the last homegrown practice. And, you know, no matter who's making a catch or how they're doing it, everybody's kind of high-fiving and cheering everybody on. So it's been great.
There we go. The lead cook, the chef, if you will, of the Vienna Vikings.
Yeah.
Ben Holmes, Ben VP, man, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Congrats on all your success, man, both on and off the field, everything you're doing, moving through life. We're lucky to have you back in the league. We're all thrilled to have you back here. Good luck this season, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. All right, Ben. We'll see you later, man.
We'll see you.
Gosh, he's just a good guy.
I love Ben.
First team all ELF, and also first team all ELF for just nice guys, just good personalities there. That's another all team or all league team that we have to do. So there we have it. All right, Matt. Now let's move on to another. Oh, before we move on, actually, to another segment, guys. If you in the chat there, and anybody who's watching right now, who do you want to see on ELF Live? Who would you like to have us on the show interview? You can put in your own questions. We'll chop it up with them. So if you got somebody that you like to see on ELF Live from the league, players or coaches, put them in the chat now or comment it below. All right. Speaking of commenting and participating on social media, Matt, this time, that was a good transition, huh? It was a good transition.
You're a seasoned professional.
Seasoned vet right there. To one of our new favorite segments, as seen on social. And there's our $1 billion graphic right there. As we just see a great comment from Alex Malchow, first team all Malchow favorites. That's actually almost even more important than first team all league. So we're going to have that this year, first team all Malchow favorites. All right, Matt, big news reported coming out of the United States. So Max, if you'll throw up the graphic here for us, Lenny Krieg from the Stuttgart Surge has reportedly come to terms with the Atlanta Falcons. And this is absolutely massive. Coming from the NFL International Player Pathway Program Pro Day, kicked the hell out of the ball, impressed a bunch of people. He was a special teams player of the year nominee last year. Just very, very consistent. This, like we said, reported, not necessarily totally confirmed yet. We don't know. But incredible news here, Matt. Thoughts on this?
I mean, did you see him kicking the footballs at his workout? It sounds like a shotgun. Like it really does. Lenny Legg, I mean, like you said, special teams nominee. He's coming in. He's a young guy. He's big. He's as big. I'm 6'2". He's about as big as me. So he's an athletic guy. I'm really, really happy for him. And Atlanta actually have a big German fan base, as we know. So that's really excellent for him. I'm super happy for him. Love it.
Yeah, this kind of stuff is just incredible also for the league. And we love to see guys who are going from the ELF to potentially the NFL. We saw it with Turpin a couple of years ago, and he just signed a big deal with the Dallas Cowboys. Like I think it also just proves the level of talent that we've got here in the ELF. So this is very, very big. A little bit sad for the Surge to lose their superstar kicker. Sorry, Coach Newman, but congrats to Lenny Krieg if these reports turn out to be confirmed. So we also have a very impressive performance from the IPP Pro Day with Leander on the bench press. Now, Matt, I don't know if you've ever maxed out on 225 here. You've repped out maxed here. And guys, if you have in the chat, let us know how many reps you could do at your peak. Yeah. 225 or 100 kilos for our Europeans on the bench press, because Leander did 38 38 reps on the bench press. Matt, what are your thoughts on this?
It's just so funny. You gotta laugh, don't you? 38 reps is ridiculous. Just for perspective wise, for the people watching at home, 33 was the best this season in the actual NFL combine. So we outlifted everyone by 5. My personal best, I want to know your personal best as well. Mine was 5 reps. So
Okay.
I got long arms. Yeah, I'm a lower guy. I'm not really an upper body guy. So mine wasn't great, but unbelievable. Look, then I honestly, I want to call out Leander. I think he could have went for 40.
Hey, yeah, I mean, 38. Yeah, give him a couple more too. Okay, look at this. We got Mal Chow in the chat. 24 reps is my PR. I believe that. Mal Chow, yeah, I believe that. My best ever was 23. This was in college, Matt. And but this was back. We were talking before the show, before we went live, about our weights. And I'm 185 or so pounds right now. What's that, like 84 kilos? I was about 30 pounds heavier back then. So I'm not getting anywhere near that. And Leander putting on for the ELF with 38 reps on the bench. Just as I said, man, we've got athletes in this league, and there's just so much talent here. All right. Also, okay, who said just shots? I was eating 5 wraps yesterday.
Solid. I mean, I'm trying to get back up to 200, so I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah, that counts. Just shots. Yeah, 5 wraps, same. Oh, Jamal, 15 on pro day. Okay, Jamal.
Jamal's a big guy, to be fair. 15 reps, I couldn't believe that.
Pretty damn good right there. All right, so there we have that. And then moving on for the FIBO. So, Max, will you throw this up? Matt and I will be at the FIBO Football Festival in Cologne in a couple of weeks, starting on the weekend of Thursday, April 10th. We're going to be there all weekend. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be doing, hopefully, depending on the internet situation, Matt, a live show of this show from the FIBO. If the internet there is not great, then we'll do a taped recording show. But that's very, very exciting. So if you guys are in that area or have any desire, come out to the FIBO Football Festival. We're going to talk all sorts of things. There's going to be a lot of people from the ELF players and everybody there. We got that. And then, Matt, this is one of my favorites right here. The Nordic Storm Avengers poster. This is great marketing right here by the Nordic Storm, coming in hot with a great graphic like this. All right, Matt, here's my question. Who on the Nordic Storm Avengers poster? Who's Iron Man? Who's the Hulk? Who you got any comparisons here?
Yeah, I think Iron Man's got to be Jay. I ain't gonna lie. Like, he talks the talk. He's a bit of a trash talker, and we all love Jay for it. I'm trying to think of other ones. I know Kat is gonna think he's Spider-Man, but he's not, because I saw his vertical on his story and he wasn't even touching the bar. And me and him have a very back and forth relationship. Hulk, I think I'm gonna go give Hulk to Max Parkinson. If you ever seen him in person, he's built massive. And he runs a 4.6, by the way. Insane for a D-lineman. I think that'll be my 2 picks. I think it's an amazing graphic too.
That's a great graphic right there. What about Chad?
Oh, that's a tough one. I gotta think he was actually in the Avengers. I mean, he did do the Arrow celebration, so he could be
Hawkeye?
He could be. But like, Hawkeye is not the greatest, and Chad's an all-star, and he deserves to be like high level. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody said, Ricardo Oliveira said, copyright incoming. Alex said, Paul Rudd vibes.
Ant-Man, right?
Who's got the Paul Rudd vibes?
I think that's Ant-Man. Which, well, I mean, that could be Khaled, to be fair. He's only like 5'9", so.
And then First Down Mag, they say number 1 best graphic of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus says Glenn is Flash. Okay.
Is he in the Avengers? I don't think he's in the Avengers.
CDC? Marcus, I don't know. I don't know.
Mean to be that guy, but I feel like he's not in the Avengers. Don't mean to be that guy.
We need to bring on a superhero consultation experts to
and that would be Chad, because if anything, he's like lightning fast, and he played for the Surge previously.
Hey, true. So there we go. So fantastic graphic on there. I love seeing teams get creative with their marketing stuff. And it's like just what we said. We've got so much talent and potential in this league, and the media side of things, which we're trying to do right here, right now, Matt, is kind of like pump all this up and let the world know about this fantastic league that we've got here in Europe. All right, last one on As Seen on Social, Matt. This one is, we can't play the audio due to copyright, but if you've ever seen the movie Rocky, you'll know what song is playing here, Eye of the Tiger, and that's because Victor Stoffel is back in Europe, signed by the Vienna Vikings. They did speaking of great marketing right here. They did this basically recreation of the Rocky Run in Philly, going up the Rocky steps. This is a massive, massive signing. This dude played 4 years at Temple and he played a 5th year at Cal Berkeley. Matt, thoughts on this for Vienna?
I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit about it in the science center, so I'll just touch on the impact for a second.
Okay.
This offensive line is looking absolutely disgustingly good. And I think this is probably, I'll be a bit hyperbole here,
Okay.
the closest you could get to a sure thing signing. You got a guy who was honorable mention in conference and an honorable All-American, ironically, considering he's not an American, but he was fantastic at Temple, went to Cal. These are Division I level schools. He's ginormous. He counts as an E, and he can play either tackle. He can play guard. Honestly, one of the best signings of the offseason so far.
Perfect transition right there. So that brings us right on into our signing center. Like we said last week, really quick though, guys, before we move on, anything that you like on social media that you want us to talk about and touch on this segment of As Seen on Social, comment under it if you see it, hashtag ELF live. And then if we get enough of those, then we will talk about it here on the show. ELFpedia says 6'7", 300 pounds for hashtag Ben VP. All right. So, yeah, obviously, the thing that jumps out to me also, Matt, dude was a captain at Temple. That is not to be overlooked. Okay. This guy is from Stockholm, Sweden. He came to a new country and became the captain on the football team. It means not only is he such a contributor on the football field, but also culturally for the football team. And that's another thing. I mean, we were just talking to Ben about the Vienna Vikings culture, and this dude is going to very likely bring some more of that great culture to this squad. Do you think this is going to be the best O-line in the league, or how do you compare it? Because we talk about the surge offensive line as well.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think if you look at conference, that Vienna will probably give up less sacks because you got to play against less elite pass rushers. But I don't want to take it away from Vienna because this offensive line is unbelievable. You add in honorable all conference offensive tackle, you're probably going to have a pretty outstanding offensive line. Like they said, 6'7", 300. And Temple actually have shown a little bit of international interest because Peter Clark, also British tight end, he scored for them last season. So he's coming up through. So he is a blue chip prospect. And I think Vienna are going to have a lot of success because he's also, you see tackle, you think they're more pass protectors. He is an elite pass protector, but he's also an elite run protector as well. If you look at his PFF grade, he had an 81.9 run grade, which is in the borderline elite category for a run player. You add in the running game they had last season, these offensive weapons. Ben's going to got a really quick release, so he's going to be able to get the ball fast out of his hands. This is going to be one of the most electric offenses we've ever seen in ELF history.
Absolutely. And somebody was just asking, sorry, this is off topic, where you can watch games in Spain. Well, all games can be watched worldwide on DAZN. Worldwide, we're talking the entire planet. So for who I missed your name on there, who was asking, but that's where we got. Yeah, dude, Vienna's doing a great job recruiting. And I mean, this is a team that is out for a vengeance after last year. Yeah. Jamal says here from Athletes Forum, Vienna knows how to recruit. So that's what we got with Vienna. Let's move on to our next signing. Their biggest rival, the Raiders T-Roll. Ben was just talking about it. And Matt, last week you went on a beautiful rant about the Raiders T-Roll, their running back potential. Tobias Bonatti is back, extended by the Raiders. Had a fantastic season last year, really kind of just stormed onto the map as sort of a premier back in this league. Matt, talk to me about this signing.
Oh, I mean, like you said, I went into a bit of a tirade last week, and some people are like, oh, Bonatti hasn't signed yet. And I'm like, I know he hasn't, but that's still fantastic. Now he's here. I can talk about him unfiltered. He is Mr. Automatic, 5 yards per carry minimum. He's always been above 5 yards per carry, which is every second run he gets a first down. He also fixed his fumble issues, 6 in the previous season. This year, or the season just gone, he had 0. He became ironclad, which is massive for him. He is a nice jump kind of running back. He's very balanced, I said before. He can basically do every run. You want a counter player, you want a power play, you want someone to run out ISO formation. He can do anything and everything you ask of him. He has great contact balance. He's great in the red zone. I'm a massive Bonatti fan. I think he's going to be like you got like the leading running back. I think he's probably going to take the most touches for the Raiders this year.
Awesome. And he's pretty young too. I don't know how old is he? He's like 24,
24, 26. Yeah, he's not old.
Yeah. So awesome to get him back for the Raiders. Now moving on to Spain with the Madrid Bravos signing Cesar Brunani, played for the Barcelona Dragons previously. He's 5'10, 194. We've got him here labeled as El Pitbull in the defense. Matt, talk to me about why he is called El Pitbull here.
Well, he's smaller stature, right? That's his
Okay.
profile, but he is relentless. He's going to be taking people out in the lower half safely, but just, aggressive linebacker style. He can play across the outsides and the inside of the linebacker as well. He's a legendary Dragon. He's had like 200 plus tackles in the ELF. He's been there for a long time. He's now going to the Madrid Bravos, and he's going to be giving them he's a cleanup crew. That's what he is. You miss a tackle, he's going to be there. You need help on a tackle, he's going to be there. He's everywhere and everywhere around the ball. When you're watching old Dragons tape and you see a tackle, it's pretty likely that he's going to be within 2 yards of everything happening. Expect a lot of value on special teams as well. A lot of fumbles, a lot of interceptions. He has like one of every stat, like block kick, fumble recovery, interception, forced fumble, sacks, tackle for loss, everything you can imagine. He's done. True veteran. I'm excited that he comes back into the league with Madrid.
And Madrid's putting together a little something. We were talking before the show, man. They're going to be sort of in the conversation. Don't know if their ceiling is as high as some of these other teams, but they're going to have a solid season. We got a little bit of beef in the chat here. Marcus says, if anybody like the Raiders? And Ricardo Oliveira's response, I love the Raiders. And then Marcus hitting him back with the zinger. So sorry, Ricardo. Get well soon. Ricardo, come back. If you don't like the Raiders, you are blind. The hardest schedule 2 years in a row. This actually, not to get too much off topic, but I'm wondering, Matt, who's kind of the heel of the ELF? Who's kind of maybe the most disliked team of the ELF? Do we have somebody?
I think it'll be Ryan, right? They kind of like punch you in the mouth. They're better than you and they know it. But now this season, they're not the same. Maybe you argue that's Nordic. They've taken everyone's all-stars and put them into one team. They've taken all-star from Vienna and from Stuttgart and from Ryan. So I think you could argue that Nordic are. And I feel like Glenn and Jay just give off like Raiders in the NFL energy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that old black hole kind of like attitude.
Hey, well, they've earned it. They're allowed to give that off. Okay, real quick on the chat before we go to the next signing. I'm Jay. He says, yeah, you've got the Game Pass. There's actually gonna be an NFL game in Spain this year, brother. And also there's going to be the Madrid Bravos games in Spain. So those are what you can watch in person. Just taking care of that. Go watch a Madrid Bravos game and then go to the NFL game that's happening in Spain. All right. And just, hey, real quick, just to wrap up that beef. Marcus said football's family, but the Raiders are the annoying step.
I love Marcus.
Last thing of the Raiders. Marcus is just on fire today. All right. Let's move on to our next signing. And that is back to Paris. Hugo Tekadam is extended back in the French capital. Matt, I know you were pretty high on him because he ended up having a fantastic season, and also, he was listed at quarterback for damn near half the season. Talk to me about this.
You talked about ceilings. This is the definition of a high ceiling. Hugo Tekadam. I was talking to people within a Paris organization at the awards. They're like, yeah, we just lined him up at receiver in practice. It turns out he was pretty good. Pretty good is an understatement. You have a very athletic former quarterback, played for the Paris national team. But he's 6'2", just a shade under 200 pounds. But he is rapid, flash fire speed I've got there, because he is incredibly quick. Probably one of the quickest players in the league. Great hands for a player that's not really played much receiver, catching over 70% of the targets. He's a rack threat. Deep and short, he can take a play to the house. We saw him multiple times, especially with this play against Berlin you're watching now on your screen. One of my favorite plays from him all season, in one of my favorite jerseys of the year. The big thing, he is still learning the ins and outs of receiver. Route running, the contact balance, being able to get off press coverage against elite corners. That's still coming to him. But he's had now a full season at receiver. He's got a full season under his belt to practice and off season as well with great French talent around him. I think that he's going to have another big year. He could. I mean, go over 700 yards. He could go for 1,000.
Well, I mean, he's got Jalen Henderson to be throwing to him this year. He's going from one great QB in Edwards to another great QB, potentially. We'll see. He hasn't played in the ELF yet, but I think a lot of us have high expectations for him this year. All right. Now, to our final of the signing center. I'm going to show off my German pronunciation chops here. Hopefully, the Surge signed running back Albert Wiesigtrauch. How was that, Maxi, our German producer? Hear that right there? Coming from Berlin. Maxi just said meh. That's just it's called an American accent, Maxi. Okay. 5'7", smaller back. A little bit of a bowling ball here coming to the Stuttgart Surge. I was just talking to recruiting coordinator of the Stuttgart Surge, Cody Pastorino. They're very, very excited about the signing. He was the second leading receiver actually on the Thunder last year after Aaron Jackson. And so they're really excited, obviously, what he can do traditionally running, but also catching passes out of the backfield. Matt, what are your thoughts on this sign?
Yeah, I've done a full evaluation on Albert, how much I enjoy his game. Like you said, he's an amazing receiving back. He actually had nearly more receiving yards than he did rushing yards for the Berlin team last season. Perfect scheme. You have him and Tomawa, two of the most well-known receiving backs in the league, in the same team. It's very clear what they're trying to do with this offense. I think this is an amazing signing. He's one of my favorite young German running backs in the league. I think his ceiling is incredibly high. Like you said, he's short of stature, but it just gives him a great center of gravity. You have to even wrote center the American way, just for you. He is phenomenal, and I think he's going to have a lot of success in Stuttgart.
I appreciate you spelling center the correct way. Appreciate that, Matt. And then just one thing, just to make me feel a little bit better from Just Shots about my pronunciation of Wiesentrauch. There, I messed it up this time. He said even Germans can't say that without messing it up. So there we have it. Surge adding to that backfield. They've already got Oyewu, one of the best in the league, and then adding some depth there and a little bit of a change up back. So that is our signing center. Now let's sort of move to the opposite of the signing center, if you will. Matt, ELF stars, veterans who are still without a team or have not signed, or at least not signed publicly. Now we're going to go through some of these, and guys in the chat, if you have anybody else that we're missing that you feel like, hey, why is this guy not signed? I want to see him back on the ELF team. You let us know, but let's start. Just Shot says, don't they have some sort of running back overdose in Stuttgart? They're trying to put together squad. They had a heartbreaking loss in the semis last year in the rain. It was a very cinematic, dramatic loss, and the Surge don't want to do that again. And the championship game, ELF championship game this year, is in Stuttgart, so they're trying to piece it all together. All right, let's bring up our stars who are yet to have signed with a team, starting with the DBs. This is a list of some big name stars here. Bijan Harris, Chandler Jones, Raheem Wilson, Maceo Beard. These guys all performed at high level either last year or in the last 2 years. Bijan, coming into Cologne last year, middle of the season, stormed onto the scene. I broadcasted a couple of their games. There's one game in particular where we had a
I think he's disappeared. I'll take over for Bijan Harris. My fault. He'll be back in a second. So, Bijan Harris, let me talk about him. I nicknamed him Poison during the season because you just couldn't go near him. First game for Cologne, he gets a pick. Pretty sure it was a pick 6, actually. And then he also has enforced fumbles in the games. He's a smaller, more diminutive cornerback, you could argue, but he pops people with everything that he has. An amazing ball hawk. Great outside, has great hops to intercept passes in the high point areas. I think Bijan should be a priority for a lot of teams who are looking forward to creating turnovers. Hello, Nick. You're back.
Sorry about that, Matt. Hey, continue on.
So we've done Bijan. Chandler Jones, one of my other favorite corners. He came in from Louisville last season. I was really excited to see him. And then he comes in, is absolutely lockdown dominant while he's on the field. Gets a couple picks. People to start looking completely the other way for him. But he did get hurt, sadly. They had Richardson II come in, who did a good job. But I really do want to see Chandler Jones back. He was one of my favorite corners. And it was just something about him, you know. You want a player who just has that factor, Nick. He wore the 0. He had a cool helmet. He just looked the part.
He was swagged out, bro.
He was. And Raheem Wilson, which you'll be very familiar with, interception leader, all-star, also came in mid-season from the CFL. Phenomenal player. Like, he is truly elite level. And I love to see him back. Great turnover player. Surge are just stacking up for this championship game, as you said about.
Yeah.
Going to be in Stuttgart. They want to bring back people that come in. Maybe Raheem Wilson comes back. You know, I'm just saying, just speculative efforts, because I really would like to see him back in that team because it just fit him so well. And then Maceo Beard, of course, with the IPP at the moment, we're hoping he potentially gets into an NFL roster. That'd be great for him. But if he doesn't, I'd love to see him back in Paris. Great zonal corner, long, lengthy. He's got former Defensive Player of the Year award winner with 8 interceptions. He has just great instincts. He could jump any ball. Zone specialist is what I have him as, but don't make it think he can't play man coverage, because he can. People are talking, Nick. I'm just saying, people are talking sub 4.5 40s. That's
Okay.
If you can add that to his repertoire, that's a scary sight.
I'm going to say maybe we get a little bit more IPP love in the NFL, as we've seen allegedly. With Lenny Creek.
Yeah.
Fun fact: Raheem Wilson and I, former teammates, back playing in the GFL together. We used to work out together. And I am now washed up and just talk about football, whereas Raheem continues to play football into his old age. Maxie, can you throw that graphic back up really quick? Because I want to put Matt on the spot. If you had to pick one of these, let's look at the corners. Let's look at the American corners. If you had to pick one of these guys for a roster that you're building, who you picking?
First of all, what team am I picking a roster for? You know, that's a big part of it. If I'm picking for like Matt Bressington's ideal defense,
yeah. Let's do that team.
I might have to go for Chandler. I like a more tall. I like a taller corner. You know, I'm a taller corner myself. I grew up watching the Seattle Seahawks when they had their era with Sherman and with Brandon Browner, and just an amazing length in their corner. So I probably would go for that. I do love Bijan though. I don't want to get twisted. People are going to take it as disrespectful. I love every single one of these guys. But Nick, unfortunately, has put me on the spot, and a bad analyst sits on the fence. So I'm going to go with Chandler Jones.
I'm just keeping you fresh, Matt, making sure you know you can't ride that fence. Only I can ride the fence as the host. You as the expert, you got to pick a side. I got to stay neutral. I would have to probably say I would pick Raheem because we're friends and I don't want to destroy our friendship. Also, all these guys, absolute ballers. Hopefully we see him back in the league, except for Mace. We would like to see him in the NFL, perhaps. All right, moving on to the other side of the ball. Some big name running backs who have yet to sign this year. Max, throw it up. Dwayne Obi, Chris Vumbo, and Nicholas Kandar. All right, let's see. Just Shot says it feels way too much, but hey, good news for Stuttgart. Obi's still on the market. Well, here he is right here. Obi in our segment of veterans without a team, obviously with the Madrid Bravos last year. Chris Vumbo with the Musketeers last year, really in the back half of the season started to step it up. I broadcast a couple of their games, and I think the game against Munich as well, the playoff game, really was a big contributor there. Matt's thoughts on these guys. Where would you like to see them go?
I start with Dwayne Obi. I love Dwayne Obi. I've been scouting him for years. When he played against Italy in Milan, he hurdled someone on his way to the end zone. I messaged every single ELF team I knew, sign this guy. No one listened to me, Nick. And he went to the GFL. He did amazing. He comes in and he did amazing into the ELF as well. So he should have listened to me in year one. However, you know, we got him eventually. He played well for Madrid. Big, physical. Just imagine kind of a Glenn Tonga style, but just a little bit taller. He's massive. He's like 240 pounds of running back, by the way. Very, very physical. I want to see him at the Ryan Fire. And I know Glenn just left. You bring in someone who plays similar. It makes sense. He's a good blocker. I'm pretty sure, right? He might have to fact check me on this one himself. I'm pretty sure when he first started playing American football in the UK, he actually started as a center.
Whoa.
So for he's a good blocking back. He's also a really good receiving back. He's a true definition of a 3-down guy. I love him. I think he's one of the more underappreciated running backs, and I'm surprised he hasn't been signed. I want him back in the ELF, and I will not rest until I see him back in the ELF.
So, well, let that be a lesson for all teams in the ELF. Listen to Matt Bressington in year one and don't wait a couple of years to discover some new talent. All right. This guy's our elite scout. How about Kandar? He's been with the Surge the last couple of years, performed a little bit better in year one than in year two. Last year, not as great for him. Now he's a free agent. Do you see any teams picking him up as an E?
I think I'll go Paris. He's a French citizen. It makes sense. It would be on a championship contending team. And I'm pretty sure Chris Colombo announced he wasn't coming back to Paris. And then you add in someone like Ugman, who's retired. So there's a definite opening for an elite running back. And he's played for Black Panther Dion, so he has been around the French circuit as well. I want him back into Paris. I think he could be a really dangerous weapon for them. He is French. It doesn't count towards any of their E imports. They don't have very many of the E imports. Only one confirmed at the point of this return, and it's on the offensive line. They're going to spend on the offensive line. You get a good running back that has a balanced play style and experience in the ELF as a homegrown next to your American quarterback who needs some stability. I think it's perfect.
There we go. And Michael Klein said he agreed with what you said earlier about Obi. Obi is a guy for Ryan Fire. So we will see if next week on the show, these guys are being spoken about in the signing center and not during this segment. Those are our big names from DBs and running backs who are yet to sign. Guys we hope are coming back in the league. All right, Matt, this final segment here, okay? Let's this is one of your many times to shine. All right. Maxie, you throw up that graphic for us and get us the transition. We're doing a franchise check a little bit here. A beast from the past. The Hamburg Sea Devils obviously were in the championship game in the first two ELF championship games. And since then, the last two seasons have been quite a fall off. Now they have hired Sean Fatah as their head coach, who has a ton of experience. He's won all over the place, kind of a legend in the German and European football world here. And we'll take a look at the record of the Sea Devils the last couple of years, dropping 4-8, then to 2-10, kind of a slide. And they are hoping for a turnaround. Matt, talk to me about this squad. Are they putting together a dominant defense?
That's a big question. And even though my cube light has just overheated, it gives me a nice dark aura so I can be all very mysterious and very angry.
There we go.
Very evil, because I don't mean to upset Hamburg fans, especially not Maxi, who is our producer. He's in Hamburg. I'm not so convinced. I'm not so convinced by this defense. I think they need a lot more. Let's just talk about who they've lost over the last couple of years. They've lost Robert Lackman. They lost Simeon Akondowarasu. They lost Bernard Garuba. They lost Jared Evans Yoruba. This is some of their best ever players. They had like 3 sacks in the top, 3 guys in the top sacks in the last couple of seasons. Yeah. Every single one of them. They're all gone.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. Now imagine if you have one of those, even one of them with Kyle Kitchens. It would have been fantastic, but it's not something we have. Here's the thing. They do lack another rush next to Kyle Kitchens. He's going to be taking up doubles, minimum, every play, maybe even triples. So they need to be able to scheme on that defensive line to get other people open. That is important. I think that it's not unrealistic to assume that Kyle will have a dip in production. He's a fantastic player, amazing, the best defensive lineman we've ever had in Europe. But those triple teams are going to be real because on the other side of the ball, there's not as much of a rush threat in terms of a pass rusher. And I think they need that. Then, linebackers. Maxie, can we throw up that depth chart real quick? There we go.
There we go.
Linebackers. They do have some talent, but all these guys are how I would describe as tackling machines. You got the guys in the middle especially, and I think they're going to be running around with Penne a little bit more as like an outside linebacker rush, but he is undersized for the position. Another Brit, another big fan. He's played with a lot of people that I know. And then other 2 guys more tackling machines. So I think it's kind of likely to see maybe a 5 front and then 2 middle linebackers. That's potential. Defensive backs is confusing. I'm confused, Nick.
That's not a good thing to be.
No, it is not. Because we've got Rodion Enrique. He's a former All-Star in 2021, one of the best European corners we have. Interception, crazy interceptions. He's a return specialist as well. He can take anything to the house. Amazing corner. He's going to be your number 1, we assume. But here's the thing, you got Nazir Streeter, one of the best safeties, and I emphasize safeties in the league. I've got him as corner at the moment because I'm hearing rumors they're going to be playing him at corner, which I don't like. I wanted him in the middle. I want him to be affecting the ball at all times. If you've watched my video on him, you know how amazing he is at reading offenses, slicing through the middle and just killing everything. His anticipation is some of the best in the league. So I want him playing at safety. But then I ask the question, who do you put at corner? They maybe have another guy that coming in, but Victor Omaradion at safety as well. He's one of the best young German safeties. Here's the thing though, Nick.
Okay.
When Sean Fatter came in, we expected German talent. Everyone said former German national team head coach, multiple years with the German national team. We were expecting an influx of German national talent into Hamburg. I'm going to go out and say they've got one elite German, which is Felix Lapper on the offensive line. I don't think they have the elite Germans, and I think that is what's going to cost them. Imports are great. You cannot win in the ELF without homegrowns, and I think that's going to be shown a little bit this season. This year for me is a rebuilding year. You develop this young talent you have within the roster, and you continue on to next season. That's my expectations.
There we have it, man. That's the full breakdown from Matt Bressington on the Hamburg Sea Devils. Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting because there seems to be kind of higher expectations than maybe could be reality with bringing in this very prestigious head coach. You're bringing in the multi-time defensive player of the year, one of the best we've ever had in the league. And it's interesting. ELFPD said, I threw this up while you were talking. He said the D line is mid, and that's what you were talking about. Like, who's opposite Kyle? Who is going to pull off some of these double teams on triple teams off Kyle? And then they use 3 E imports at linebacker and none at D line. What do you think about spending 3 E imports? Theoretically, all of your defensive E imports, if you split them half and half, at one position group.
It's tough, right? You expect them to make an impact, but personally, how I would build a roster was you kind of in Throner's-esque, if I'm going to give them a bit of credit, which I don't usually do. If you made the front lines, you don't have to worry so much about the linebackers. We've seen that as an approach taken by multiple teams. And then they have good talent, but I don't think it's elite at any of those linebacker positions. I do think they're good players. I don't want it to be misconstrued, but none of them are proven to be all-star level caliber players. And that's maybe if you are going to commit to the linebackers, you would need to have that gem in the middle, that all-star, that AJ Wentlands, that Dion Gomez, that Flamor Zimon, that just holds the middle of the defense together.
I was waiting for you to rattle off my name in there of those.
Nick Alfieri, we'll cut it out. Nick Alfieri, the middle of your defense kind of player.
No, that's how you make your defense worse and old. All right, so Matt, we're talking about takes that may age well or may age poorly. You're saying Hamburg Sea Devils not going to live up to all the hype that we have seen floating around, and it's going to be more of a rebuilding year for them.
Yes, that's what I think. I know people are gonna clip this, but you can clip it for the better. I don't mind being on clips. We give teams a lot of information on this channel they can use for clips. So feel free, Hamburg, to make me look silly.
There we go. There we go. Use it as inspiration. So there we have it. Those are our segments today on the show. Man, fun show again today, man. Guys in the chat, everyone, thank you for joining us in here. Thank you for arguing with each other, sharing your ideas, your thoughts, your takes. We have a favor to ask. Please do not forget to like this and to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. It helps with the algorithm, spreading our videos and lives out. It helps grow the European League of Football. So like it and subscribe, please. And remember to comment hashtag ELF Live on things you'd like to see on social. And Matt and I will be back here same time next week. We are 50 days away, Matt. 50 days away.
50 days. So close.
There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next Friday.
Goodbye.